Let's begin because we have an email that I want to deal with today, which was sent by, let me know when we're, it was sent by one of our sisters out in California, and she wanted to know, what does the scripture mean when it speaks about thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, which is a subject matter we taught on for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours on that. So there is a teach on it, but I do recognize that we have well over a few thousand teachings online, and save you going through all of that. We're going to do a cursory study on it today, just a very brief cursory. It's going to be quick. It's going to be a little bit, we're trying not to make it too fast. But I think it is something that we need to do every now and then to set people's mind at peace or at rest. Now, I'm going to ask you, Soldier, if you can move over to your left a little bit.
Yes, sir.
And can you move over the whole table? Move the whole table. No, you stay where you are. Just move the table over. Thank you, sir. All right. Because I want our brother to be able to. Right. Now, what I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll be so kind, I want you to go with me to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 23. Let's go there. And the title of this will be Cain, the First White Man. Now, I'm just going to make it raw and direct. Cain, the First White Man. Now, the reason why that's going to be hard for some people to really receive that is because they don't believe that Cain, correction. There are those who believe that Cain was indeed a white man. But according to historical and archaeological fact, Cain originally could never have been a white man, because all the men that was on the earth at that time were indeed men of color. They were black men and black women, period. You must remember that the thing that we call today, or they call themselves white today, that's a new phenomenon. It's new. They haven't even been on the earth as long as we have. They're new. If you care to read about how they got ousted out, read the book of Job, because in Job he speaks about how they were sent packing like thieves. That's relevant. Let's go there real quick. Let's go there in Job chapter. Let's go and find out real quick. It would be just a quick minute. Yeah, so they were sent packing, and part of the reason why they were sent packing was because they indeed were people that were base men. Job chapter 30, and I also want. Right, and the reason why, yes, so we're going to start from the top. But the reason why, if you ever want to find certain clues to the scriptures, especially the book of Genesis, read Job. Why? Because Job, it's a book that, in fact, it is reported archaeologically that it's the oldest book in the Bible. It's the oldest. People say Genesis. No, Genesis was written years later. Remember, it was written by the hand of Moses.
Okay.
But Job is one of the oldest books. Now, in Job, just do me a quick favor. Jump over to page 31 and read verse 33, just so that people can understand. But read verse 33, just for time purposes.
This is the book of Job, chapter 31 and verse 33. If I covered my transgressions as Adam, by hiding my iniquity in my bosom.
Now he's referring to Genesis chapter 9 and verse 4. Bear with me. Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3. Just quickly go there for me, please, sir. Genesis chapter 3 and verse 4. Just read that.
It's the book of Genesis, chapter 3 and verse 4.
Go ahead.
And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. For God doth know that the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened.
And then you've got to read verse 5 and 6 in order to follow the understanding of it. But just wanted to show you that so you understand that it's all in the book of Job. Now here's the thing that I want us to read. Let's read 30 and 1. Let's go.
The book of Job, chapter 30 and verse 1. But now, they that are younger than I.
This is Esau. Go on.
Have me in derision.
Go on.
Whose fathers I would have disdained.
Go on.
To have set with the dogs of my flock.
See? In other words, we disrespected that nation so badly that we disdained them. Edomite, we disdained them. And not only that, we disdained them so much that we would set dogs to them to run them away like wild beasts. Because we didn't consider them to be human. They were people without melanin, you see. And go on, read verse 2.
Yea, whereto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished.
Right, jump down to 5.
Verse 5. They were driven forth from among men.
See, so that's when they were driven, and they were out in the what we call what's today called Russia. What mountain were they?
The Caucasus.
The Caucasus Mountains. That's where the word Caucasian comes from. So when we call them Caucasian, the word Caucasian is named after a mountain where they dwelt.
In Georgia, Russia.
In Georgia, Russia. All right, continue.
Verse 5. They were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief. To dwell in the cliffs.
To do what?
To dwell in the cliffs.
And that's part of the reason why even today, now that they are in what we call the modern age, when they live in buildings, they like buildings that are high up that they can see over everywhere.
Right.
Because it reminds them of, in their spirit, of them living in the mountains where they viewed out and saw everything around them.
That's right.
Everything is in the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in the scriptures. Read it again, sir.
Job chapter 30, verse 6.
Always ask, don't just interrupt. You know better. Go ahead.
Job chapter 30, verse 6. To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys.
To do what?
To dwell in the cliffs of the valleys.
Go on.
In caves.
In where?
In caves.
So they were cave dwellers. These are the original cavemen and cave women.
Yeah.
They are what the world calls Neanderthals. In fact, they called themselves Neanderthals. We didn't call them that. We didn't write the books. They wrote the books. And that's what they wrote about themselves. And if you read the 13th tribe by Arthur Koshel, you'll find he even said they would go to each other and pick the nits out of their flesh and eat them.
Yes.
This is what they would do. Continue, sir.
In caves of the earth and in the rocks.
Read.
Among the bushes they prayed. Under the nettles they were gathered together.
They huddled together. They didn't wash. They smelled like animals. This is what Arthur Koshel wrote in his books, the 13th tribe. He wrote this. Someone that looks like them wrote it. Now, if it was a black man that wrote it, we could say, all right, but we've been a little bit, one-sided. But their own people wrote this.
That's right.
Read on.
Verse 8. They were children of fools.
Children of fools. Go on.
Yea. Children of base men.
Base men. Go on.
They were viler than the earth.
They do the most vile things that occur on the earth. And we'll prove that in a moment later in the New Testament. But read on.
Verse 9. And now am I their song? Yea, I am their byword.
We become a byword by them. Because they're now over us. Go to Psalm 144. No. Go to Psalms 44, please. 44 and 14.
The book of Psalms, chapter 44 and verse 14. It reads, Thou makest us a byword.
Go on.
Among the heathen.
Among where?
Among the heathen.
Among the heathen. They are the heathen. The word heathen means other nations. Go on.
A shaking of the head among the people.
So now we are the ones that have become a byword. And when we walk by them, they shake their heads. Why do you think even today, when so-called Edom sees us, they shake their head? When our youngsters walk with their pants hanging down, they shake their head. When our young women walk on the street dressed in things that are undergarments, but wearing it as overgarments, they shake their heads. This is what the scripture is telling us here. That thou makest us a byword among the heathen. All right, now let's go back to where we said we were going to start off. All right, where did we say? I forgot.
Deuteronomy 23:7.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's read.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23 and verse 7.
Read.
Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite.
Read that again.
Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite.
Go on.
For he is thy brother.
For he is our brother. And literally, he is our brother. Go on.
Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land.
Where?
Thou was a stranger in his land.
So in his land, we were a stranger, but they gave us safe passage. They provided for us at a particular period in our history.
Right.
So watch this. To show that our Father in heaven is not unfair, he had respect upon them because of what they did for us. But that respect was lost because they broke it when they tried to murder us in the wilderness. Now, as far as Edom is concerned, it said, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite. The word Edomite comes from the word Esau.
That's right.
Let's go, if you please, to Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25, let's go there. Scripture says, prove all things.
Yes.
So Genesis chapter 25, and let's begin, if you please, because I want to do with the Esau thing. Let's go to, yes, to verse 30.
Yes, sir. The book of Genesis, chapter 25 and verse 30.
Let's read.
And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage.
So red pottage, and remember, Esau himself, he was a red man. He was a man whose blood came to the surface of his skin. That's why when he blushes, you can tell how he's feeling, or when he's hot, you can tell how he's feeling. When he's angry, you can tell how he's feeling, because his blood rushes to the surface of his skin.
Come.
You don't see it in people with melanin. Read.
For I am faint, therefore was his name called Edom.
So from that point, because he wanted red pottage and he was careless for his own birthright and was willing to give it away just for food, he was called Edom.
Come.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, now that we've understood that, let's prove the abhorrent and Edomite. Let's go to the book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 9. Amos chapter 1 and verse 9. Now we're going to do this kind of slow. I'm going to speed up a little bit later, but I'm going to get this part out of the way. Amos chapter 1 and verse 9. Let's read.
The book of Amos, chapter 1 and verse 9.
Read.
Thus saith the Most High, for 3 transgressions.
For what?
For 3 transgressions.
Go on.
Of Tyrus.
Of what?
Of Tyrus.
Go on.
And for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
So he says, you have done wrong. There was a treaty that the Most High God set up that we could not trouble our brethren. And Esau is our brethren. He's our brother. And Most High set up a treaty that we couldn't trouble him. But the person who broke it was Esau.
Come.
Once he broke that, then everything changed.
Come.
Read on.
Of Tyrus, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof.
Go on.
Because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom,
Industrious, go on.
and remember not the brotherly love, covenant, but I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof.
Go on.
Thus saith the Most High.
All right, now, let's go back and let's read verse 9 one more time.
Yes, sir.
Go on.
Amos chapter 1 and verse 9. Thus saith the Most High, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus.
Now, just very quickly, I'm not going to cover Tyrus, but I want you to understand Tyrus, they are what we call, today we call them Hamites, because that's who they were, all right? Hamites. Now, what I want you to also bear in mind and understand this clearly, Hamites are whom we call today Africans. All right, Hamites, whom we call today, we call them Africans. But really what they are Hamites according to the scripture, because there were 3 brothers. There was Shem, who was the oldest. Ham is in the middle. And Japhet, who we call Japhet, he was the youngest. Now, the first nation to rule the world was the Hamites.
That's right.
It wasn't Japhet. It wasn't the Shemites. It was indeed Ham. The African nations ruled the entire world once upon a time. They were the greatest and strongest nation that walked the earth. In fact, their forefathers is Nimrod.
That's right.
Nimrod, the scripture, was a great hunter. He was an architect. He was the first king of Babylon. And many people don't understand that. But then when you get that now, you begin to look further into the scriptures. Watch this now. It says here, let's go back to verse 9. Read, please.
Amos chapter 1 and verse 9. Thus saith the Most High, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus. Because it became a major shipping port. And Tyrus, they were what we call Argonauts. There were people who took to the sea. So when you hear this nonsense that black people don't swim, don't sail in boats, garbage. The best swimmers in the world once upon a time were black people. Of what's called Benjamin.
Oh,
All of them.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
All